Today we will be making tiramisu. Tiramisu is an Italian coffee-flavored dessert. It's fairly simple to make, and it's nice because you don't actually have to bake anything. First thing you want to do always is mise en place, or gather all of your items and your ingredients together. Then we're going to go ahead and whip our egg whites. We want to whip the egg whites until they're medium peaks. Medium peaks mean that they can stand up on their own, but they're still shiny and glossy. They shouldn't look dry. There's also granulated sugar in with the egg whites. Then we're going to go ahead and soften our pre-measured out mascarpone cheese. Next, we're just lightly whisking together our egg yolks, sugar, and cognac. I didn't have cognac on hand, so I used some Baileys. If you need to substitute alcohol, that's totally fine. We want to be sure to fully mix in our egg yolk and cognac and sugar mixture into our mascarpone. The eggs used in this recipe are all pasteurized eggs, meaning they've been heat treated to kill any potential foodborne pathogens. Since the eggs are not being cooked and are being served in a raw form, you want to make sure that you're using eggs that have been treated in this manner. In-shell pasteurized eggs and egg beaters are a great option for this. Now we're going to fold in our medium peak whipped egg whites. We want to make sure that we're folding, so we're going to remove the whisk at this point. If we used that, it would beat out all of the air we've just put into the egg whites. So what we're going to do is a much more delicate sort of mixing here, where we go around the edges and through the center, but we are not doing a rapid mixing motion. We really want to be sure that we're folding everything together evenly without beating out all of the air. That's going to help make our texture of our tiramisu a lot more light and fluffy. Then here we have our espresso, our creme de coco, and our granulated sugar. This is going to be the mixture that we brush onto our lady finger cake pieces. You just want to whisk this together until it dissolves. Make sure that the espresso has been cooled, or it will be too hot for the eggs and the mascarpone cheese. I like to put a small layer of the cheese mixture in the bottom of my pan that I'm assembling my tiramisu in. Some people like to do it with the espresso mixture. Either is perfectly fine. And then I'm going to align my lady fingers in the tray. Lady fingers you buy at the store that are already made. They're a fairly dry cake substance, and they're going to absorb both the mascarpone cheese mix and the espresso mix. You may have to break some, as you've seen, to get them to fit in your container well. You can also make it in smaller containers if you want to have individual portions instead of a family portion. Then go ahead and liberally brush on your espresso and alcohol mixture. Again, if you need to substitute alcohols, that's perfectly fine. You can build different flavor profiles that way. Then we're going to put on another layer of mascarpone cheese mixture in between the layers of ladyfingers. The alcohol in this recipe is just for flavor and shouldn't be a problem for anyone eating it, but if you'd like, you can take the alcohol out and replace it with other flavorings if you'd like, or just leave it out and have a more prominent coffee flavor in your tiramisu. Now we're going to go ahead and align the next layer of ladyfingers. I like to offset the way I stacked them in my container, just so I can make sure that there's no blank spots. We want to make sure there's ladyfingers in everywhere that it's possible to get them. You can see I've broken them again here to try to make it fit a little better, and I can get one more in there maybe. And now I'm brushing on another layer of our espresso and coffee and granulated sugar mix. Tiramisu is a really nice dessert to make because most of the time that it takes to get ready is actually the time it sits in the refrigerator setting up. This tiramisu is best if it refrigerates overnight. The mascarpone mixture is a little looser in this recipe than in some, but make sure you refrigerate it for at least 4 hours. As we finish brushing on our last layer of espresso mix, then we're just going to put the rest of the mascarpone cheese mix on top. If you're using a different size container, you may end up with more layers of ladyfingers and more layers of mascarpone cheese mixture, but in my container I ended up with 2 layers of ladyfingers and 3 layers of mascarpone cheese. Once it's set up in the refrigerator overnight, or for a minimum of 4 hours, you can go ahead and top it with cocoa powder, or in this case I used shaved chocolate. Shaved chocolate's nice because it gives it a little bit more sweetness on the top, and another texture. And now you've successfully made tiramisu. Be sure to share with your family and friends.